Now today we have a very special episode because we have the first photo book of Okada Nana. Now, if this is your first time watching this series, I basically go over and look through a photographer's perspective and not a fan's perspective of the photo book itself. So I look at things like the posing, the lighting, I look at the artistic elements behind it, as well as the composition. So I hope you enjoy this video. Let's start off with the photographer who has actually shot other photo books before, including 46 and 48, as well as many other people. Tomoki Kuwajima actually has shot Sayuringos, shot Wakatsuki's, shot Shinoda Mariko's, shot Miyuki's, shot a whole bunch of people's photo books, so he's well known for this. So with that up there and a lot of hype being behind this, especially because it's Okada Nana's first photo book, let's go ahead and open it up. So now that we open it up, we can see here that this is a front cover. This is basically, just from looking at it from first perspective, it just looks like a portrait of her somewhere outside. So it should have a little bit of a theme of that. And then flipping it around, we see her over here posing. So we get to see a little bit more posing images. And looking at this a little bit more fancy place, it seems like there will be some good locations in here. So let me go ahead and look through it and be able to give you a critique on it. So now that I've looked at the photo book, I'll be able to give you guys a full analysis on it. And if you want to know what I thought about the photo book in general, you have to wait till the end, so I give who I recommend this photo book to. Now let's start off with this front cover. This front cover we do see in the actual photo book, and this is actually a section that is in the photo book. So it kind of gives you a little view into what to expect, as I thought before. And the inside is actually another place in the photo book. I don't feel like this one represents it as much, as there's only a couple pages of this one. I feel like there's other images that could have been stronger here, as we'll talk about, that are inside. But first we gotta talk about the inside cover, and this is the inside cover. Now, we don't see any marble flooring anywhere inside, so I don't know where this is taken. Maybe this carpet over here led to where they were actually shooting. But this is kind of like a ballerina ribbon ties. That's what that reminds me of. And it's kind of like, I guess, symbolic, but looking at the photo book, it doesn't really say anything to me in that sort of aspect. And the back is white. I don't know if there wasn't enough cost to print in the back in color, or if they just wanted to keep it nice and simple. So we open up to the first image, and first thing we see is not Okada Nana over here, but this double page, like sticky. You can see like where the glue marks are and everything, where like you see it's like double paged because they want to make it, I don't know, thicker. But anyway, Okada Nana is right here. Image is a little bit oversaturated and a little bit too bright for my taste. Look at those greens, like the greens are starting to blend in, and the face over here makes her look kind of solid in a sense. But overall, I do like the feel of the image. I just don't think it was the best executed. But then after that, we get a nice one that's actually pretty well exposed. It's a tad bit on the darker side, but it's still good compared to overblown. So we get to see this one over here with a lot of hair lights. You guys know how I love the hair lights in the hair. It really adds like another depth, in my opinion. Next, we move on to the actual cover, which is right here. And as we can see, she is holding the rock, so it is exactly the same picture. And it seems like a lot of people are doing this recently, where they're including the cover inside. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. In this one, I feel like it really, right after this one feels a little weaker. So I feel like this shouldn't be included in it. Oh, and you guys know how I love all this white space over here. But I mean, sideways could have worked out, but I think all of the 2 pages wouldn't have worked out because it would have been cropped really weird. And then right after, we move right into this, which is actually like a whole setup. Like we can see the background over here with the blue floor, and then her holding a prop, and even like props being inside of it. So kind of adding like a little bit of a 3D aspect to it. These images are a very nice touch. We usually don't see like inside studio shots in some photo books. In some of them we do see it, but I really appreciate it when they actually do something like this and set it up like this. So yes, generally I think these images are really well lit. Like just seeing this is probably like a big source of lights, because you can see the shadows are super soft. Although the white balance is a little off between these two, This one's a little more green and yellow, while this one's a little bit more blue and green. And then move on to this one right here. Now, even though we can see a little bit of white right there, it does allude to something else, and I feel like this lighting really helps emphasize that. If you notice, these two lightings are a little bit similar, but this one has a little bit different feel to it. Now, this could be because of the background not reflecting any light to her, and then just her causing her hair to go to shadow. But this one has a very nice and using the shadows to the advantage. And look, they even start using some of the props over here to their advantage and start implementing it into the scene. Then we move on to some more foresty images, which I really like. And we help transition into this with thanks of this prop right here carrying on from the other one. And the blue really doesn't go too well with this green, but I feel like with what she's wearing being more of a teal color, it helps kind of like transition it into it. Oh, and plus, like super overblown hair, like kind of leaves like that angelic feel to it. So it looks really nice. And right here, she looks super innocent and everything. But then we start getting a little bit moodier and we ditch the prop and we go into straight of her. And then right after all those dark images in the forest, we get blasted by this white beach scene, which I imagine it must have been a sunny day and they're like, no, we need the exposure on her face to be 0.5 stops ahead of what it should be regularly. So now everything is super bright. She's exposed pretty good. It makes her look lighter, but it makes everything else look lighter as well. Except for these trees over here, they're like normal. And after a series of beach photos, we get this one right here, which I actually really like. I feel like I like it because it makes her look small in the big world over here. Like usually when we see this type of shots, we see them kind of close and we see the ocean like over here, like horizon line around her. But in this case, the horizon line being so high up, it makes her look smaller and makes the world look bigger. Then we move on to a little bit more fashionable ones because as we know, she is a wine chick. But these images are a little bit more dressed up, a little bit more planned out because having this type of colors all together, like even on the next page, we can see the colors all sort of combined. So this must have been scouted earlier with the wardrobe in mind. And then this image right here, I really like it because it kind of shows like a lot of parallel lines with each other. We have the palm trees over here, then we have the line over here of her plus the wall. So I think this is just aesthetically pleasing in general. And the fact that there's a lot of white space over here doesn't bother me too much because she's in a straight line and then there's like so many straight lines everywhere, and I think that's really pleasing to the eye. Now I should probably mention this photo shoot. This photo shoot was not my favorite. This is like maybe my favorite image, and that doesn't say a lot. This is really just her kind of outside. She's standing in like tall grass, and here she's sitting on the bench. It's really just kind of posy and kind of just standing there. There wasn't really too much to say about it. Then we move on to the back cover, and as we see, this is exactly the same one, just like they did with the front cover. And I don't think this is the strongest image. Let me show you what I think would be a stronger image. I feel like this one would be a better image to use for the back. I feel like the face is much more relaxed, but yet kind of assertive in a way. And then the pose very relaxed, but yet very elegant. And as we can see, we see the return of these little strings over here. So I guess this was the location for the inside cover. And even like all this blown out mess over here doesn't really bother me too much. I feel like this is more of the photographer's style than it is a mistake. But yes, I think this image speaks more about what the photo book is than the other image does. We have this image right here. I feel like this light streak over here is fairly interesting and it really adds a different element into the photo. I feel like in this one it doesn't really work that well, but in this one right here, streaking across the face, it really adds a nice dimension to it. And especially with that focus being so sharp, so good. Then move on to a little bit more of undershots where it's shooting up to them, making them look a little bit bigger, a little bit more dominant. We've seen this before in Kita Harariya's photo book, and I feel like that was a much better example of how it should be done right. In this one, I could see what they're going for, but I feel like, again, in Kita Harariya's, it's much better. Now, I usually complain about the pool ones because they usually distort the body when you go in the water. But this one right here, I think this one just only adds to it because it distorts in the right ways. And plus this angle being so different, plus this arm being stretched out, I feel like everything complements so well as everything being pushed to the side with the water over here. The crop is at a little bit of a weird spot, but I feel like that's the best they could have done. And I feel like this image does really deserve to be on the 2-page spread. This one might be in the running for my favorite photo. And after skipping all these images, which have a fast shutter sync, we move on to these, which is actually another photo shoot. And as we can see with this one has a little bit different lighting. It has a little bit of color gels in there to make the light look a little bit purple, as we can see with the hair, and as we can see in some of the shadows over here. Now, I don't know what this prop is that she's laying on. It looks like an upside down question mark or something, but they use this for a couple of pages. And looking through these images, I think this one is my favorite just because of the way she's holding herself and the way she's posing. I feel like this one actually complements with the prop in the background more than, for example, this one would. I feel like using the curves to your advantage really helps with the curvy prop in the background. Then move to these. These are a little bit more elusive. They're kind of giving you a signal, like especially like this one over here with the legs stretched out, and then over here kind of covering everything. We get a little symbolism over here with the clothes next to her. And I mean, obviously she's wearing something, but it is giving the illusion that she isn't, especially with the clothes being right here. So these are fairly nice, and you guys know, hair light right here just adds that extra level. Next, move on to these images, which is her sitting next to a window, which looks like a large window. And this one right here is, I feel like it's a little bit distracting because it's so shady over here that I feel your eye gets drawn more over there, while this one doesn't have that much shade under here or anywhere near there. I feel like it's a little bit more, the shadows aren't as dark in this one, because in this one it's a sudden fall off of light, while here you don't get really that much space to look at it. And then this image right here, actually I really like. It's a really nice clean image with the light being right next to her, shining in from over here, a little bit of head, kind of giving like a little bit of a Rembrandt lighting, which is what it's called. Background is a little bit distracting right here, but I feel like the portrait's nice enough with the interesting rays of lights, plus that it acts like a kicker light plus the Rembrandt lighting, so I think overall this is a nice photo. Next we move on to these, which is similar to the other background we've seen. We've even seen similar props, but it is a different color than the other one, and this one has a different swimwear to it. It's much more interesting, and I feel like it's an interesting design, and it's sort of more pose-like than the other one was. This right here is a very swell image. This is a very different smile from her that we usually don't see. I don't know if this is kind of like a forced smile, like kind of like smile for the camera. This is the kind of the vibes I'm getting. But I really do like the whole posing and using the background a little bit more as a background element instead of being a little bit more in the foreground as we've seen in the other ones. Plus using this prop over here to the advantage, making it in the foreground with her posing and everything, and especially with the swimsuit really accentuating stuff. It really helps out. Next we use more of the props, and these are a little bit different. These are them coming out from the ground. This one feels a little bit too try hard. I feel like the lighting isn't perfectly suited for what she's trying to do here. So it's a little distracting. Background, it looks obviously fake, so I feel like it isn't the best. But then this right here is actually really nice and posing wise, because this looks like something in a magazine. This little front is a little distracting, but I feel like I'm able to forgive it because the lighting is a little bit different. It is a little bit more contrasty, as we can see from the face. So I really like this image. I really like the spread out over here, kind of revealing the thin legs. It really works out. Next we move on to this one, which was actually teased a little bit, well at least the photo shoot was, on her Twitter. This one, for example, is her holding it up kind of gently, and we get a little bit distracting elements in the background like this over here and especially this over here. But I feel like overall they did get the feel they were going for in this image. But I feel like for sure it works out way better in these two images. I feel like these two images are really strong. If that pillow wasn't there, it would be really solid, but I feel like it still works out. I still feel like a little bit more of the elegance in this photo. And this photo right here is, the elegance is there, but the thing that's ruining for me is her fingers right here. I feel like it's like too rigid. If it was like soft, kind of like this one, like it isn't too super soft, but it's still soft enough, it would work out to be a little bit more elegant, as we've seen in other photos before. These two images are actually a little bit different, but they try to do the same thing. This one right here with the foreground being whatever the heck this thing is, it kind of feels like something is just in front of the camera. It doesn't look like a ceiling decoration or anything, if that's what they were trying to go for. But then her posing right here is fairly nice. You get to see the leg over here exposed, with this one hidden, stretched out, making it look longer. And then we get to see her stretched out as well. So it is a fairly interesting posing, but then I feel like this one is much stronger with her laying down and yet still having a little bit more relaxed while holding it. This one's much more relaxed. You can especially tell in the face. And having her hand in the foreground does have that 3D effect that I feel like this one was trying to go for. And then we transitioned back into the outside with the same dress. So it's like a throwback to the beginning pages. And again, these are not my favorites. So ending off on them was not my favorite note of the photo book. Because I feel like we've seen these images already. It's almost the same scenario. It feels like it's just like, all right, here's a couple of more photos. Let's just put them at the end. It kind of feels like I've already seen this, and when I finish it off, it feels like, okay, I've already seen it. I wanted something new, maybe something big to end off on. But then just ending it off at the end, I know they're trying to do like a little throwback, like, hey, let's complete the book. Let's reminisce from the beginning of the book. But I feel like I already saw enough of these that I feel like the beginning was enough. And then finally we end off on her hand reaching up, which kind of goes along with her hand over here. So I guess it plays some sort of function like that. But overall, not my favorite ending. I usually like the endings that usually leave a note to leave off on, like we saw with Ito Marika's, or it's something really, really good like we saw with, I'm guessing, Shinichi Mai's. So yes, that was the photo book. A lot of photos I did not talk about. As a fan, I would really, really like those photos. As a photographer, not the most interesting things in the world, but for sure, if you're a fan of Okada Nana, then there's no reason for you not to pick it up. Pick it up, collect all 5 or 7, I don't know how many photo cards there are. Collect them all. If you're an AKB fan, really nice photo book. It's not the best, but it's not bad. I feel like this is like a standard photo book. Maybe like a little bit above standard, just because of those photo shoot elements in there. I feel like that added a nice complex idea to it and really showed that they were planning a little bit more than they do with some other photo books we've seen. I feel like if those photo shoots weren't there, it would still be an average photo book, but with those in there, I feel like it's a little bit above average. And I mean, not trying to look at it from fan perspective, Okada Nana is photogenic, I'll say that. So again, if you're thinking about picking up the photo book, go ahead and pick it up and see what you think for yourself. If you have the photo book, you can let me know what you think of it down below. Maybe tell me a page that you like. Like sometimes when you flip open a page, it opens a brand new thing and it feels very fresh, other than looking at it online and just scrolling through different images. That's why I definitely recommend picking it up. And I mean, you can look at the scans later on, but picking it up and looking at it, feeling at it, opening the next page, totally different feeling. And that's really what the publisher and the photographer really intend to do. So that does it all for this photo book critique. You can go ahead and leave your comments down below. You can go ahead and like the video and subscribe to keep up to date with the brand new photo book critiques that come out, as well as the weekly news videos that I do. As I say every single time, thank you all for watching.